Okay, I'm starting final assembly of all the pieces I've been working on the last couple of weeks. I've got the brace in place. I stuck a Sharpie up to the bottom of the hole so I know everything's lined up there. That's tacked on. I think I'm going to do this piece next, which is here. You can see I'm starting to paint the back sides of all these pieces that I'm going to weld in. So one by one as I go through, I'm going to paint them. I got a little bit of paint on that. It's still wet, so I've just got to let that dry a little bit. And what I found I like, you can see the back side, I use this high heat Rust-Oleum. I've did side-by-side test. They make it like a copper primer weld through, and I've also had the Steel It, which is 3 times the price of a can. This is like $7 a can. But side by side, this always does better. When you look at the back side where the weld goes through, this leaves much more paint. The other two, you lose about a ½ inch of paint. This one, you lose 1/8 to 1/4. So I just feel like this stuff works better, so that's why I use it. So anyway, while this dries, the other thing I have to do with this project, I have the hindsight that Ford didn't have, to try to figure out why do these things rust so bad. And one big problem is, here's your air vent where air comes in, but also water comes in. And what happens when water comes in this, through this channel, and it just rolls down basically inside this pan. Now this back half is capped off, but all the water basically ends up in this. So I imagine the original one must have had drain holes right there, because it was rusted, so I can't tell. But I'm going to put a drain hole in this one, because the water has to go somewhere. And once the water drops down in there, there's no place for it to go other than pulling up right there. So I'll show you what I bought to put a hole in this, and hopefully that'll help the water problem. It's not a very good design, really. I don't know. A lot of these vents on other cars, they route them outside the firewall and down, but this just goes down through the body, which is why all this would rust, because if you drive this or leave it out in the rain, it's going to rust pretty bad right there. So anyway, let's show you what I'm going to do to hopefully fix it a little bit. Okay, I already had some dimple die sets, but I didn't have any little ones. This one is a 3/4 inch, I think. 3/4 half. Anyway, it's small enough. It's small enough to fit in there, so I want to put a hole there. I don't want the flange to come out, so it kind of work as a drip edge. I may put 2 of them in there. I haven't decided. I think I have room for 2 holes, but I want to decide here in the next couple of minutes and work through that. So we're going to punch 1 or 2 holes right here in this, and then I also want to make, I'll show you when we get back to the truck, I want to make a flap right here to kind of protect the tires. Will throw water up on this, so I just kind of want a blocker right there to also help, so it doesn't throw water up into it just by the wheels rolling. So all right, let's get these punched out and let's see what they look like. Okay, since I don't have the press, I'm just putting it up here on the anvil and just tapping it through, because this is only 18 gauge metal. So I did the first one. You can see it came out pretty good. Anyway, I'll do the other one, and looks like it's going to work. Okay, now that I got my vent holes punched, I just took a piece of metal, put a brake on it, and kind of rolled it over there, and that'll go like that. And what that'll do, I got this one done, the water that'll spray from the tire hopefully won't go up in it. It's at an angle too, a little bit, so that should prevent water from being slung up inside those holes. And I've got this side painted, ready. This piece is ready to install, so weld this one here, then I'll have both sides ready and we can be ready to install them. Okay, I'm getting my panels welded in. This part gets covered by the other panel, so I spray painted all the black with the high heat. And now what I'm going to do, because I know water will come down through here, and these rust out really bad before. I got drain holes in these pieces I showed you, but what I decided to do on all these pieces, like here, I'm going to cover them with grease. I'm just going to pack a bunch of grease in this section. Won't hurt anything as long as I don't get it too hot right there. It won't melt out, and even if it does, it'll just drip out the bottom. So anywhere inside here and on the other panels, I just want to fill with oil and grease. On a restoration car or something you were doing nice, that wouldn't necessarily be good, because if the grease would come out, the paint's not going to stick to it very well. But I'm going to do a patina paint job on this, so I really don't care. And I think this will help keep it from rusting for at least as long as I have the vehicle. probably won't rust out anymore since it's all new, and I'm trying to solve the problems where it used to rust before. So anyway, that's my plan. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna grease all of this, the whole thing, and hopefully that'll help prevent rust. And I'll do the same thing in the bottom of that piece. I'll go ahead and put some oil in it now, or some grease in it, and then later I'll dump oil down in here. I'll let it seep out, so hopefully that'll resolve some rust issues in the future. Okay, I got everything on the outside, inside welded up, so it's all good. There's a new hole right there I gotta fill, no big deal. But that's good. Everything's welded there, and on the inside, I got the mount welded in. Went across there, and I welded it on the inside too. And I went ahead and sprayed it black. Right now, I'm gonna let that dry till tomorrow. Then I'll also fill this with grease before I put the floor pan on top of it. So that'll give it some protection, but I think it came out okay. Seems to line up. I'll put a Sharpie in there to line the hole up. Looks good. And I'll put a little bit of paint on the back side of the floor pan there. Almost looking like a hole, but it's just paint. So this floor pan will be ready to go in tomorrow. Now I'm going to jump over to the other side and start working the outside corners on the other side, on the passenger side. Okay, I'm working on the passenger side today. I've got this section with the hinge pretty much welded in. I've got to do a little bit more finish work. One thing I want to show you before I move on, I've showed this stuff before. The reason I use this on the back side when I weld items is because it stays on there. You can weld through it and it doesn't burn away. You can see over here, I did some welding. This top piece here is painted on that side and on there. And you can see the paint stays right next to the weld. I mean, you barely lose any paint, hardly any burns off. On this, I actually welded right down through the paint. And the paint stays right there. So on the back side of something, I'm pretty confident that this paint stays better than other paint. Here, I'm getting ready to paint this. I can paint on top of this. But on the back side of something, like the piece that I'm getting ready to put in, you know, you don't have access to it later, so you want it protected. So that's why I use this. It's about a third of the price. I mean, a can of this is $7, and I think a can of steel, it's like $32. So, I mean, still, it's probably good. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad, but I have better luck with this for the price, so that's why I'll stick with this. Okay, I'm working on the passenger side, the last piece that goes on the outer piece, and the same as last time, I greased everything on the inside. I got a little smoke on the other side when I did it, but overall it was fine. And like I say, if you remember that area right there, it just rusted down to nothing, so it's slathered with grease, so it should protect it. One pro tip that I'm going to give you that I don't follow myself, I should, but I get myself in trouble all the time. When you're working panels in like this, what you really should do, you should put a couple holes in them and use Clecos, the little things that go in them that kind of work like a rivet that hold it in place. That way when you're trimming these lines down, your panel's not moving, it's in place every time. I get in trouble because the panel moves around a little bit, and sometimes I'll oversand something and get a bigger gap. But if you like, it's important to lock these in place, because I can put this kind of in position where the top's in position perfectly, but the bottom's not lined up. So if I move that over, then the top moves, which is not good. I mean, I manage it. It's faster to do it this way, I think. Maybe, probably not, I guess, if I think about it, because you get it right the first time. But that's something you should do that I don't do all the time. So sometimes I do it, but rarely. I just fight with it mostly. And I get my panels pretty close, so it's not that bad. But if you really want to do it professionally, you should use the Clecos and lock it in position every time that you trim on it. That way you know it's always going back to the proper position every time. But I'll manage with this one, and I'll get this in. And then yesterday I already got the mount in there, and I painted the inside of it. So I'll move to, after I get this panel on, I can move to the floor pans on the inside. Okay, I'm prepping the floor to put it in. I would do like the other part. I heavily greased this and actually put some gear oil down it in those little grooves. So it's pretty oily, which is good, I hope, to prevent further rust. I made a little accident when I drilled my holes for the floor pan. I'll show you what I did. Okay, I drilled all my holes for my spot welds, and I accidentally drilled on the wrong side of the line here, so these 4 I have to fill. So what I did for this mistake, I put a piece of aluminum. I have a piece of brass somewhere, but aluminum will work. When you weld on top of brass, it won't burn through, or it'll burn through if it gets too hot, but it won't stick to it. Those little round things are plugs that came out of the holes from the little tool that puts the holes. So I filled those plugs in there, and then I'm just going to spot weld those, finish them off to fill them. So okay, I got those holes filled, no problem. So they're never there. It's ready to weld in now. It's laying in there nice and tight. All the gaps are good. So now I'm ready to go ahead and weld this in, and then put the mount cap in it, which is that piece. Go in it, and then this side will be almost done. Okay, I'm getting my front floor pan welded in, and to get the spot welds pulled down onto the brace nice and tight, every other hole I pre-drilled a hole, and I ran these screws with washer heads on them, and I'm screwing them down nice and tight to pull everything down to that brace to make sure it's nice and secure there. And then I'll back these out and fill them in with welds. So kind of working like a Clico in a way. I only had long ones. I mean, you can use shorter ones here, but that's all I had, so that's what I'm using. Okay, now I'm over on the driver's side. I've got it ready to start tacking in. I've got it there. I got all my holes drilled for the spot welds. I greased and oiled inside that mount just like the other side. So looks like it's ready to start tacking in, and we'll get this side done. And I got the other side done. I still need to grind it, but I got everything welded on that side. And then I'll weld this side, and then tomorrow I'll probably grind all of my welds smooth and finish weld everything. Okay, about the only thing I'm gonna get done today is hopefully I'll get this installed. The reason I say that because my welder, I'm about to run out of gas, so I may or may not have enough gas to finish it. But I've almost have it in. I've still got the little plug to put in here. And one thing you can do when you put floor pans in, I'll leave these long on straight areas sometimes and try to cut it to pre-fit it. I'll leave it long because it's welded down everywhere else, so it's not going to move. I can take the grinder now with the cutoff wheel on straight lines like that, and then just cut it along that there and cut it along that, turn up through there. That'll give me a nice fit because I'll know those two halves will go together because they're cut and it's not going to move anymore. I mean, it's locked in place right now. So that's what I'm getting ready to do. Cut that line, and then it'll be ready to weld that piece in. And we'll pretty much have both floor pans in and done. This is to finish up some little things on those, but we're almost there. So let's see if we can have enough gas to get this finished today. Okay, after almost 2 months of weather in the 20s and even in the single digits, today it got up to I think 71 degrees. It says it's 67 now, but it feels cooler than that. But I can't work on the truck because I ran out of gas, so I'm finally putting my new springs on. So I got this set on this side. The other two are still in the box, so I'll see if I can't get the other spring on and see if I can't get this dropped on the ground. It's a shame it wasn't ready today. I actually could have driven it today, but my battery's also dead, or it ran down, so I've got it charging now as well. So let me get the other spring on and see if we can't get this together. Okay, they went on easy enough. I got them on there. I don't have the straps on yet. Had to loosen those up. They were in a bind until I got the collar down. I put 2 inches on each side, so I don't know if that's enough or too much yet, but go ahead and drop it down now for the first time with the new springs and see what happens. Hopefully it's better than before. Looks better, but I haven't pushed on it yet, so still not what I would like it to be, but I'm sure it's better. I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. I can roll those down some more and see. Like I say, until I get it out and drive it, I won't really know. But I think I would like more than that probably, but let's see how it goes. Okay, I cranked these down another 1.5 inches. It's a little better now. I think I can probably crank a little bit more out of those and it'll be pretty close. It's setting about right. I prefer even more, but I mean, this is probably okay. I'll just have to get it out and drive it once it warms up, but that's all I'm going to do for tonight because it's starting to get cool. It got to 70 today, but it's not going to stay at 70. So anyway, I got the springs out of the box and they're on the buggy, so it's basically ready for the next test drive once the temperature warms up. So buggy's back in action a little bit, so hopefully we'll see it running and have a real test drive before too long.